Hello, you are listening to the Unqualified podcast. We are your hosts, Diamond,
Gary.
And Jorge.
where we speak our minds and share our unqualified opinions together. Just a reminder, this is an AI-free podcast. All content is human designed and created by our team. Student debt is fucking our generation. You'll own nothing and rent everything. Don't forget, we're unqualified.
So at this point in your life, you've probably heard about the student debt crisis. Big topic these days. If you haven't, then you might be living under a rock, or, lucky for you, you're a Nepo baby. So, before we go into this episode, we're going to go ahead and clarify some things, right? So what is student debt? It feels like it's been around forever, but obviously everything has a beginning. So, if either of you have some kind of insight, how did student debt come about? How did it start? How did it get to this point?
From my research, college expenses have increased exponentially. And from what I understood, it was related to a competition of amenities between colleges. So, for example, my college had a bowling alley. That's not common,
What the
but
hell?
it makes the college competitive. I didn't go to that school for the bowling alley, but if you're a student and, you have two choices and both schools are the same with everything, but school A has a bowling alley. Yeah, and school B doesn't, then yeah, school A is going to look a little more tempting, right? On top of that, I learned that executives have had large increases at the university level. And when I say executives, I mean people really high on like the university boards. So
not the
they're
professors.
the chair members.
Yeah, it's not the teachers,
not
right?
the professors.
Don't
In
blame
fact,
them.
I'm sure the professors are really unhappy about the executives getting wage increases every so often. And then on top of that, most colleges have pretty extensive student service offices and tutoring, career counseling, mental health care. A lot of schools even offer like low cost healthcare for vaccines and testing. So I definitely see how these expenses have added up over the years. And if you think about it, the current outstanding federal student loan balance is a 1.661 trillion. So these things have to be paid for somehow.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money, honestly. We're barely reaching into someone about to become a trillionaire status. So,
Which
hopefully they're
I don't
prepared.
even know. Like a billion is a pretty infinite amount of money. I can't imagine a trillion.
It's already hard to imagine that much, but that's a lot. That's way too
Yeah.
much.
I mean, and
Way too
good thing
much.
to remind everyone is like, that 1.6 trillion also accounts for all of these execs' salaries, This is just the entire bill being footed from all universities as far as I understand, right, Diamond? So it's like, it's not that colleges would like have to cost that much. It's just accruing all of it together, and yeah, it's a big bill.
Oh yeah.
It's all the interest.
Oh yeah.
It's all the interest. So, with such a huge number, that begs the question, why did students take out so much debt? It's a lot of money, right? And we're going to touch upon what general impacts do we feel, when a large portion of the population has debt. I don't know if you guys would have any like short answers for that, but I guess we're going to touch upon that a little later on as well.
Yeah, when a large portion of the population has debt, we see buying power, spending power go down, and it creates an unhealthy economy.
It really does. It really does.
And on that piece of why students take out so much debt is unfortunately most families don't have $20,000 to $30,000 per semester to spare for college, and I definitely know that there are a lot of students that have to live on campus. Maybe home is a little too far away, and that's also a huge part of why college costs so much if you're trying to live even close or on campus.
And I think one big thing about this is that, yeah, we touch upon student debt. Why does it matter to the student and the immediate family? But it also impacts pretty much everybody. So we're going to touch upon why does student debt matter? Why is student debt generally bad? And it might seem silly at first, but there is a good type of debt which can actually help like your credit score, help you, get mortgages, loans, all that good stuff for businesses. But student debt, it's very hard to get rid of. It's very hard to get it pardoned. Is that the term?
Yeah, I think so.
I think
Yeah.
it's a good enough word.
It's a
File
good enough word.
bankruptcy.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't file bankruptcy on it unless you
Yeah.
jump some hoops. But it's very hard. It's very hard.
Forgiven.
So,
Loan forgiveness. Loan
there you go.
forgiveness.
Loan forgiveness very hard. Also another huge topic these days. We're going to touch upon how does student debt affect the housing market. It affects us in various ways that people don't think about. And of course, for the people that don't have kids / don't have debt, you might think to yourself, why should I care? Which, is everything is linked. Society isn't a one-man kind of thing. If it affects one of us, eventually it's going to start affecting you too. So I think it's very important that we touch upon all this. So with all that said, I think we're going to go ahead and get to the opinion quarter, and we're going to see what we have to talk about today.
I'm going to kick it off with a bang. It's not going to really be any good statistics as I'm working through this, but did some research on some current statistics of student debt and the trajectory of the housing crisis, like how both of those things can be in effect. Mainly Gen Z focused. Want to say that these numbers still very much relate to millennials, but since we're coming up into the buying homes step in our life for the first time, we're just behind millennials in that case. Gen Z is still in between the ages of 12 and 27. I think a lot of the statistics that you're going to find nowadays is going to be more relevant to them. But again, a $500,000 home is going to be hard for both anybody in their late 30s and anyone in their 20s. For the millennials in here listening, this accounts for you too.
Yay.
By the numbers, looking at student debt, Gen Z, interestingly enough, it's claimed to be the lowest loan debt balance so far compared to other generations like millennials, with a median of $23,000 to start. Now, emphasis on so far. Since Gen Z ages are halfway through college, keep in mind Gen Z will still be in college and account for this data, into this pool, until roughly 2035 to 2040. Like I said, the youngest right now is 12 years of age. So we still have a lot of kids still coming through this. But right now, of today, 23,000 is where we start. Which, a lot can happen, before 2035. With this rising education costs over time in the last couple years, we seem to start our debt, though, earlier than millennials. 20 to 25-year-olds in 2022, on average, started their debt at $21,000, which is 13% higher than millennials at the same age. Okay? Even though we're, quote-unquote, lowest loan debt balance so far, we're starting earlier. This data point I don't take as a good sign, even if they have the quote-unquote lowest loan debt right now. I see this as you're just watching this generation not only start their debt younger, but also meaning you still have time to accrue more debt over time as well, right? That's kind of one place that we can see a statistic data point here for Gen Zs when it comes to just scratching the surface on some of the student debt pieces.
That data point is spooky.
Yeah.
That is
Sounds like
scary.
We're falling into the hole faster, sooner than everybody else.
Right. They're just well, you haven't hit the bottom yet, like millennials. And it's well, we're still falling. So.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So student loan debt is not looking great. 20,000 on an average as a median to start off is pretty high. How does this affect housing costs? Or how does it associate? Moving on, you can't talk about housing without talking about inflation, right? Also in 2020, the U.S. hit its largest rate of inflation in 40 years. It was a 5.2% increase. For example, some places that you would see it in is 5.2% increase in meats and poultry, which can be very expensive for families. 4 to 5% increase on fast food and restaurant food. Of course, you're talking about gas and other elements as well. Mind you, that increase in 2022 happened in a 12-month span. So from 2021 to 2022, you had a 5 to 6% increase in a lot of these categories. And this is also pre-tariff scares. So cost of goods since now, before this report was done a couple years ago, significantly has gone up since then. And, economists have been saying we're actually in the first layers of depression at this point. Just in a general sense, inflation right now also not doing great. We're not on an all-time low. Everything's expensive. And you're talking about kids that are coming out with $20,000 in debt to start at 18, which is insane. Inflation and housing APR increase as well that's going on is starting to feel like impossible to own your own home, right? Reading the Forbes, they talked about the median home price in the US in 2025 is now $462,000.
That's crazy.
And that's not including a 6 to 8% APR on top of that.
I remember growing up, my parents would be like, "Oh yeah, a good decent home in our area would be like $250,000."
And we're
I'm like,
talking
"Yeah, okay."
nice, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not. They weren't even talking about starter homes either. It was talking about like just a decent, like your average house,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, 250. Maybe 300. All right, sweet, awesome. Accounting for inflation. Yeah, that makes sense. And now we're talking about almost $500,000.
Yeah.
Almost half a million. That's crazy.
And in this case, I'll read exactly like the piece from Forbes because I think they write it really well. It reads, in spite of there being a 15% more single homes on the market in May of 2024, which is when this study was done, the median sale price for the home types was only lower at $440,000. So we're talking $20,000 less after a 15% increase on single homes, which accounts for the lower cost of only condos and townhomes in many areas. Just like you're talking about in like where you used to grow up, 200,000 was like a 4 to 5 bedroom house. This 440,000 in May 2024 was talking about townhomes and condos, which is considered, obviously that's not like a single family household. It only brought it down by 20,000% when they accounted those in there, which I just think is insane. Unfortunately, like the American dream feels essentially dead. A recent study from Harvard said 4 out of 10 Americans under 30 are just barely making it financially month to month. It's significantly affecting the younger generation in terms of their housing costs. And then when it comes to their education, they're already underwater. Also, the instability of the job market today is causing more challenges for Gen Z to like pay off loans if they are even trying to get a home or rent. Entry-level jobs, we talked about this last episode about they're just disappearing due to the big expansion of the AI bubble that all of these companies are trying to jump on. So job instability, if anybody's been trying to get a job recently, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's hard out here to try to get
It's rough.
anything tangible. Yeah. With all this setting the stage for Gen Z, it feels like we've been priced out of our future, and it's US Today called it that we're like transferring into economic nihilism, which isn't a great thing. It's not our fault, but they're talking about the fact that why try to, it's like uncoupling the belief of, well, I'll just try to save up all my money so then I can get the home that I can't afford and this, retirement that's never going to happen. We're starting to like see a shift in the mindset of the young people to live now. When they want to buy something that's a little more expensive, well, if you can't afford that home and you never will, then go ahead and buy that computer you've always wanted that's like $1,600. You could get something a little cheaper, but the $400 difference between a cheaper computer to the one that you really want isn't going to get you any closer to this home that's unattainable. They're talking about this economic nihilism where the younger generation is really only trying to live for today by day by day instead of trying to think of long term. And it's just due to the fact right now because it feels like a lot of the stuff that you're trying to save up for is just not tangible. That's also concerning on a general sense of an entire generation if we are pushed down all the way into this debt hole where we can't afford to live, and that will economically affect the entire society as a whole. I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more, but just a small piece of talking about that for somebody who's 55 and has kids and you're thinking, well, I'm not in school, I'm not buying a house, it's not going to bother me, it's not going to affect me. If your kids can't afford to live on their own and have rent and things like that or wherever they live, they most likely won't have money for you if in a case where you become much older, like hopefully you live long enough, but you might need assisted care. You might need assisted living. That's also not cheap. You may not be able to. A very common issue now with millennials and Gen Zs with older family members like grandparents or much older parents is they are being priced out of even care for older generations. It affects the young. It affects the old. This is important for everyone. Generally, a recap, the wages can't keep up with inflation. We haven't had a solid salary increase over like 60 years. I think there was a comment about the fact that we've had 3 wars since the last time we had a substantial increase in salary, which is insane. Inflation with wages is a no. No tangible way to offload debt accrued. We're starting younger at 20,000 just for student debt in your 20s, and housing costs continue to skyrocket. In that US Today article I was reading, it said, to understand Gen Z's economic nihilism is to understand the hopelessness that comes with being thrust from one unprecedented crisis to the next, one broken promise after another. It's affecting the economy, it's affecting the generations, the younger ones, and yeah, we're getting priced out of homes and priced out of education, and it's starting to feel like you're kind of falling down into a well that you can't easily climb out of, and very few have the opportunity in career to expand on their, into their career path that will make enough money to start crawling out, if that makes sense.
I'd rather go to Japan than get a mortgage.
Exactly. That's kind of where the younger people are. That's what I found in the student debt and the housing crisis ratio.
I'd rather get a Labubu or go to Disneyland.
Exactly.
I can't leave my childhood.
Well, I tried to save up for a future that you can't afford, but you can just go back to your childhood, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So that's my opinion corner. Diamond, what do you got?
I did read this article from the New York Times. It was an opinion article by somebody named Astra Taylor, who discussed how debt is used to control people and how it originally controlled slaves. I feel like every time, every time you're like, find out something about the U.S., it's like, oh yeah, it comes from racism and slavery.
Oh, true.
It's
like
it's that
how
always
many
sunny meme with the board with the red lines, like it's always slavery. It's always it.
it kind of do be like that. It kind of do be like that, unfortunately. But it was an interesting conversation, especially because we're kind of like, why are we putting so much debt onto young people? Because obviously this problem doesn't exist at this level in similarly like first world countries. Mm-hmm. And we go back to calling the US a third world country with the Gucci belt, right? As we discussed earlier, the federal loan student balance is 1.661 trillion. I did want to talk about a couple other statistics that are shocking as well. The federal student loan debt represents 91.6% of all student loan debt, which is actually a great thing because that means less than 9% of students are getting private loans, and those are a whole other ball game.
Those are worse.
Yep.
Those are way worse. Average federal student loan debt balance is $39,075. 11.3% of federal student loan dollars were delinquent as of 2025's second financial quarter. And I saw this number, and for some reason, this website, educationdata.org, did not put the delinquency rates for 2024. And I'm like, well, how can I compare this 11.3% delinquency rate? So I did some more searching, and I actually found the 2020 delinquency rate as well. So the 2020 delinquency rate for quarter 2, I use quarter 2 for all of them, so we're all even.
Sure.
0.58%.
Not even 1%. Okay.
2024 delinquency rate, quarter 2, 6.88%.
Damn.
So 2025, we hit 11.3%.
We double it every 2 years. Double it and give it to the next person.
Yeah, right?
Literally. And I was talking to my partner about this too, and he was like, just wait. 2026, it's going to be 25%, and
yes, sir.
I don't even know what are we going to do when that happens?
Yes, sir. We're all about breaking records here, baby.
Insane.
So,
sorry to stop you there, but just for some people who may not know this, either they could be young, getting into college, may not understand student loans, maybe could you describe just in a very layman's terms, what this delinquent percentage actually means? In terms of this financial quarter, what does this 11% federal student loans delinquent mean?
It just means that they're behind on payments, usually 30 to 60 days behind.
Perfect. There you go.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
At least the data I found is for 30 to 60 days. I don't know if, I mean, these are by quarters, so it really couldn't be more than 90 days.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
and hey, that makes sense. A lot of people work while they're in college, and they've got to cover it for rent where they live, groceries, and other things. You know, whatever you've got left goes to that student loan. So I'm not surprised that it gets doubled over time. It's just where that gap between salary or any type of money you're making is getting smaller and smaller as you know, as everything gets more expensive.
Yeah, I was actually reading this Reddit thread on our student loans, and someone they had been ranting about their unrealistic student loan payments, which just started in August. So sad for them, unfortunately. But they were looking at their account, and their regular payment was $571 a month. This is a nurse practitioner. They make decent money. I think their current pay after taxes and healthcare and 401k and whatnot is about $3,500, $3,600 a month. So, and their student loan payments are $571 a month. That's not horrible, but you know, it probably could be better. I mean, that's a big chunk of their pay, right?
Yeah, it's not cheap.
But they're surviving. Now they check their account to find that the payment has jumped by like 6 times. So their current payment is now listed at $3,600 per month.
Damn.
And they make $3,500 per month after taxes, after everything.
Did they say what happened there? Was it like some sort of interest kicked in after a certain point? Like, did they elaborate on how?
They just owe a huge amount. They owe like, because they're a nurse practitioner, so they owe about $330,000. Yeah, a huge amount. And then people were like, well, you know, this is what your payment looks like if you didn't recertify. Did you recertify? And they're like, yeah, I recertified. And, you know, the payment was pushed a few times, and suddenly it's at this, you know, it said August. Once August hit, it's going to be at this price. And I think it's also scary because a lot of people don't understand like how you get to this point, but like the interest on these loans are horrible.
Yeah,
you know, you end up taking out $150,000 and suddenly you're paying $300,000.
The interest also hits like right off the hop,
unforgiving.
No? Like
once you start working, interest hits.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think as long as you're still in school, interest can accumulate, from my understanding.
I thought I heard about private ones that do like hit while you're in school, but
I'm sure
wrong.
the
It's been a
private
while.
ones do whatever they want.
I bet.
Y'all got no protection.
For real.
Do not
Yes,
sign
Sally
that
Mae.
paperwork. Back to my, first thing about how debt was used to control people, originally slaves. Unfortunately, student loan debt does disproportionately affect Black and brown students. Mainly African students, but it does really affect Native students as well. My assumption for why the Hispanic rate is a little lower is because they're not going to school at the rates that Black students are. Black students have been very good at attending school at a better rate than brown students, unfortunately. We gotta, come on, mi gente, we gotta get it together.
Yeah, what the hell?
Especially brown men, dude. Especially brown men. I don't know.
Really?
They're just going straight to work after high school, dude.
Straight into construction, baby.
Yeah. I'd also say, I don't know, because I haven't researched this piece. I would also make the assumption somewhat over time when, we had like the Civil War and some more political effort to quote unquote bridge more of the gap for Black Americans. Could we also maybe assume that a lot of programs originally as well was maybe only accessible to, say, Black instead of brown, and as it's transitioned over time, it's expanded more to other minorities?
I think culturally, I want to say it's more of like a cultural thing, because
Yeah.
in a lot of Latino households, like, I feel like education isn't, for me it was, for my household it was, but just from what I've seen, it's not super important to other families. And you have cases like our friend, right? She didn't go to college because right when she finished high school, her parents were like, you got to start working. All your siblings started working right after high school. You got to go get a job.
It's not necessarily like prioritized in the same way.
Yeah, I think it's just like not as prioritized in the same way. And I think it also helps that there's a lot of HBCUs. And from what I understand, there's, at least I haven't, I don't know, Jorge, do you know any historically brown or Latino or Native colleges, communities?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely not. No, yeah.
Yeah. So they
Yeah.
just don't have, I just think the community doesn't push for it and they don't have a history of it and it's just not part of the culture, unfortunately. And I think, personally, I think it should be more of a priority. And now, you know, if I had kids, I would push them to get their education if they can, if we, you know, but that's a factor that I think,
We're slowly moving to that point. It's just a slow process.
Well, the Latina women, yes. The men, I don't know what y'all go into construction for whatever reason.
It's slow. I said it's slow.
But yeah, I did want to talk about the numbers affecting Black and brown students, and more so Black students, just because we have a little more data on them. So Black and African college graduates owe an average of $25,000 more in student loan debt than white college graduates.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
4 years.
Not a small number.
Not a small number at all. 4 years after graduation, Black students owe an average of 188% more than white students borrowed.
Oh my gosh.
I'm telling you guys.
188%. That's
that because
more
of
than double.
because of the accumulation of the interest, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Black and African American bachelor degree holders have an average of $52,726 in student loan debt. And 60%,
so like 53K.
about 53K, yeah.
Oh my, yeah.
Which, that was a mortgage back in the day.
Yes.
That was a mortgage back in the day.
That was a house in Jorge's neighborhood 10 years ago.
Whoa. It still can
10
be.
years ago. Oh.
It still can be.
Pew pew.
What homes do you know that's at $50,000?
Okay, well, not.
That's going to be a lot. That's going to be
all
like
right, that's a down payment. That's still a down payment.
Yeah,
How about that?
Yeah, that's
Still
a
down
okay,
payment.
Okay.
In today's age, that's a down payment.
That's a down
But
payment. Yeah.
20, 30
That's just
years
probably
ago,
making the 15% that you, what is it, 15% you need for down payment so you don't get the extra interest? Like,
Honestly,
it's probably
yeah, I'd
just
say so.
that.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
in the 80s, I could have got a nice house with this chunk of money, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If homes were like 100,000, yeah, you'd be literally paying half of it off the gate.
Yeah, my partner, his mom's first house was, I think, about 125,000, and that was in like 2001.
Yeah.
And that's in California. So I can't imagine what the prices look like in Memphis.
It might be nice.
Another thing that I noticed, 60% of still indebted Black student loan borrowers do not have a savings account. That's
Probably 'cause
stressful.
Because they're busy
Yeah.
paying off the damn student loan.
Because they can't, they have nothing left over to save.
Mm-hmm.
They're living paycheck to paycheck, if that.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a small piece as well, I was listening to like a section with Kevin Hart, and he was talking about like growing up in a more like impoverished area. And, you know, a big part too, especially in America for Black and brown Americans, their stores, their 7-Elevens, things like that, they are hella predatory societally to keep you down. We kind of already know this, but he was talking about the fact specifically on saving accounts that, you know, a lot of these people are getting jobs where they're getting paid in cash or they're getting a check, something like that. And they have these ATM machines right inside the 7-Eleven, and they're usually right next to like a liquor store. And like the way that this is designed is they want you to take your money out fully in cash, not save it, and then either you have to for necessity, like use it for groceries, use it for rent and other things. But they also put a lot of those extra things, like if you're living a very stressful life, you're probably going to want to resort to like alcoholism. Like that's very common. It's also how America sort of places and around your area, like what you can afford. And so it just, I don't know, it just really keeps them down. And he was talking specifically about how savings accounts can be so difficult for people in more impoverished areas. Like you don't have the money to save anyway. and also the environment around you discourages you from doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Even what's that movie with SZA? One of them days.
One of them days, yeah.
Even one of
Days.
them days, they always got those cash advance payday loan
Yeah.
places
The predatory loan
yeah,
management places, yes.
impoverished areas. Always.
Yes.
But continuing on, Black and brown students drowning in debt does have some effects, of course. We are less likely to make successful, I say we. These students are less likely to make successful impacts in the community, such as buying property. I did see a statistic saying that brown students were more likely to hold off on getting married and having kids, and I'm sure that applies for the Black students as well. Maybe not to the same percentage, but I just thought it was an interesting thing to add, and it really just highlights like some problems in our country.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And touching on this, it's funny that there are financial aid options that people complain about. They're like, oh, why is there only scholarships for brown or black people or Native Americans? Well, if you see these numbers, you can clearly see that we really need the help. We really need the help because, our parents don't have the money to put us through college.
It is
We
not
have
a
to-
level playing field.
It's not a level playing field. It's really not. So I do think that this kind of helps us not get an advantage. It's not an advantage. It's to catch up. This is catch up money that we really need. And if you're complaining about it, you should probably check out the other scholarships that are out there because there are literally millions of dollars up for grabs that people do not take simply because they just don't apply for them. So that's just my advice to the general public, but also my word of warning or, my public announcement. There are reasons why the black and brown communities really do need this type of help to get, even in the academic field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big agree, big cosign.
Well, with that said, that sort of touches upon, I know you said that it does affect our ability to buy property, obviously, namely homes. And it really does affect us in big ways. If we're too busy paying off debts, there's no way we're going to be paying off a mortgage or rent or whatever the case may be, right? So these days, more young people, instead of opting to get a place on their own, it's too expensive. So instead of that, we are opting to get a place that's more with friends.
Mm-hmm.
And, as somebody who's rented with friends before, it's actually a viable option. It actually does help out. I've actually known people who have bought a house with friends as well, like literally almost like a mansion with like 5 different people. Because if you do the math, if you do the numbers, it ends up being relatively cheap if you have enough people to sign on. I mean, obviously, it comes with the whole caveat with like, who gets what at the end of everything. Do you all really get along? All that stuff. But the math kind of does end up mathing if you do end up getting someplace with like friends and or romantic partners, but generally with friends it might be a little easier. And
What do you mean house? We're all teaming up together to buy a condo. We can't afford a house. It's $1 million. The condos are $400,000.
How much is $1 million divided by 5? It's 200,000.
That's it. You got 200,000 laying around?
I mean, I'm not saying, but it's better to get a loan on 200,000 than $1 million. Am
I just
I
think
wrong?
it's crazy that even if on one household, if you split it 5 ways, it's still like 200,000 each. That's just insane.
Oh yeah. It's very expensive. It's very
like,
And then
house.
after 30 years, when you are all done, Carrie, you can sell the house and take that money and buy your own house. But you gotta wait 30 years before you own
and
your
then,
own house.
leave
So
the other poor sucker
basically-
with $2 million to buy the home you have.
Hopefully after 30 years your condo appreciates.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't, sink beneath the ocean. But anyway,
Get flattened by a tornado.
True. But these days, home sales have gone down dramatically over the past few years. I think I have a graph here that shows the past 10 years. I can't go any further than that because I'm not going to pay for them.
10 years is fine.
10 years is fine. In the past 10 years, we're actually almost like at our lowest point in terms of home sales. Again, we can't really afford these homes with all this debt that we're carrying on our backs. Now, there is another option that the a little bit more fortunate people might have is inheritance or some kind of nepo baby situation, right? Either you're inheriting a home or a nice chunk of cash, right? Maybe your grandpa, to get a little morbid, your grandpa's on their deathbed and they're thinking, "Oh, Sonny, I'll give you 300K because you need it for your family or whatever." Let me tell you, you should not count on that. All right.
Yeah.
Things happen. All right. Some tomfoolery in terms of maybe some other family members might get in the way of that. Number one. Number two, I have heard stories, horror stories of like old people, grandparents, like somehow getting like a mistress, and they eventually end up giving a lot of the money, if not all of it, to the mistress, and the younger generations, like the grandchildren, not getting anything. Not only that, I don't know who, I should have looked this up before we started recording, but I've heard of celebrities not, letting their kids get their inheritance because they're like, oh, they should learn the value of hard work, which, by the way, is a skill issue. If you, as a rich parent, cannot show your kid the value of hard work, that is a skill issue.
Yeah.
But, anyway.
This is what you were asking me about Anna Nicole Smith the other day, huh?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, she got a nice chunky cash. She was like 20 something, and she got with like some 80-year-old man. Like, this man was 1 foot in the grave.
Be prepared for Grandpa to send off your inheritance.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, look, I'm just saying is that the housing crisis is not getting any better with all the student debt. And even so, the average net worth of your family is not even going to be that high, right? People our age, we're not saving that much money. We can't save up that much money. These days, I think based on the Federal Reserve Board, they came out with a survey 2023, anyone less than 35, we're looking at the median net worth since that's, more realistic to the common man. The median net worth is $39,000, right? That's not a lot. That's definitely not enough for a down payment. That's not enough for a mortgage. None of that.
And mind you, I would also consider, just from my own personal experience, there's a lot of people I know that even have less than 5,000. So it's probably 35 is like bridging a massive gap between people that really have no money and people who are, nepo babies with like $50,000, $80,000 in tow. Like, there's not a lot of people that have. This is just my experience. Like, at least in Gen Z, all the people I know, they don't have even $20,000 just lying around. That's not a thing.
I've heard, I think there's a famous statistic that says that like a $1,000 emergency is enough to put a lot of people into not necessarily homelessness, but financial jeopardy.
Yeah.
So
they can't save that.
Yeah, we don't have that much saved, or it's gonna hurt us very, very badly. So it's gonna, student debt is just one huge tack on everybody's back that we need to get rid of. And I think housing is just one of the things that most people our age at this point is thinking of.
Also, universal affordable education.
That would be
nice.
That would be
great.
nice. That would be great. But for now,
it would be nice.
It would be nice. Well, for now, we're going to go ahead and go to the hot take section. Ladies, what do we have for today? What do we have to say about this situation?
All right, my hot take. I think most people, after we have basically shit on how hard it is to be in this generation and afford college, my hot take is I think people still should go to college. Like, I know, right? Shocker.
That's not what my podcast man says.
Right. Everyone's telling you, skip college, it's not worth it. What a waste of money. I'm going to also just be honest. I used to feel that way before I went to college, and there was a good chance I may not have gone if I hadn't, made the final decision. But I had that same belief. Let me just clarify. Like, why I think it's important to go to college is, number one, you definitely do learn stuff. Like, and I am on the side now that after I've done it, it is 100% very valuable. I know more than I did before in very impactful ways. But also, If that's just not enough for you, nowadays your salary is hard capped if you don't have one. For many of us that if you have some old, people older in your generation, not your generation, sorry. If you have older family members just a little ahead of you, like in your 30s or some friends that don't have college educations, you already know that they're probably making less than 40,000 a year. And they, in their career path, it's going to be very hard for them to try to prove that they should be paid more or the same as someone who does. Even just for the sake of your future, that's why I argue college at the minimum, at least an associate's degree. And if you can, just push through that last 2 years and get that bachelor's. It's going to help you long term. Think of it as an investment, and it is worth it. I know for some people that'll go 1 year out the other. It did when I was 18. I know it's hard to think about your future, but please, your future self in your later 20s will thank you. It is worth it. But let me get some caveats. I don't think you need to go to a 4-year university. This is where that debt impact happens a lot. I don't want you to accrue debt to achieve college. I 100% recommend, I did it myself, to take community college for the first 2 years. A lot of states, if you've lived in your state for at least a year, maybe 2, of course, some states can be a little different, they usually will even pay for your first 2 years. So your first 2 years can be free, all right? That's why I push for college, because there is some affordable programs that will help you. So community college, definitely, you do not have to go to 4-year. I was in college for 7 years to finish my bachelor's. In my case, I didn't have a program in my state, so I had to, from the very first year to the 4th year, had to pay for it for myself. I just paid as I could throughout the semesters. If I didn't have enough for the first semester, then I'd skip it. I'd just skip a semester and work that whole time. I graduated at 24. I was a little bit more behind than, some of my other, alumni, but I have no college debt. It was worth it to me just to be 3 years behind. It's a couple semesters lost. Yeah.
Honestly.
It is doable, in a general sense. Now, I did live at home. I stayed living at home, while I was in college. So there's some aspects, but I just want to let you know it is attainable. You don't have to go into debt for school. I would even suggest, again, there's many programs you can do, but if you can't, just pay as you go is an option. And I wouldn't stress too much about trying to graduate at 21. It's really not that big a deal. Companies don't care really when you graduate. They just look if you've got that degree, right? It's worth the investment. You get better salary, better opportunity as well in your career, and you will avoid debt in the future too. The idea of, well, I won't go to college, therefore I want to cure debt. Unfortunately, if you're not making a higher salary, you will accrue debt in other ways. So you don't get around debt just because you didn't go to college. So it's not a sure thing either. I have a friend, unfortunately, who just recently bought a starter home. He's in his mid-30s, so this is around his time to do that, and he is massively in debt with a mortgage. And unfortunately, he does not have a college degree, so his career path is stunted that way. For the people that you're listening to gurus talking about, don't go to college, it's not worth it, all of this other stuff, they're not telling you on the flip side that if you don't do that and you can't get a career path that does have a very clear path forward for you to make more money, you will end up in debt in other places. It just may not be a education loan.
Before we go on, I've noticed you say what's the word? A cure?
A cure?
It's a crew.
It's saying it wrong.
I thought you were saying occur.
I meant a crew. Well,
It's a crew.
I'm glad you felt that way.
Do you want me to try it one more time?
Nah,
That's
let's
her
leave it in.
southern
We'll
accent.
leave my
That's her-
correction as a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn it. All right. Well,
Got him.
that's my piece.
For my hot take, it's pretty similar to Carrie's. My hot take is you do not need to take out student debt in order to attain a 4-year degree. Personally, for me, I feel like I was really fortunate and I didn't have to take out debt because I qualified for the 2-year waiver that my community college offered. And I also qualified for some other scholarships, and I'll kind of get into that in our positive section. Don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I think there's ways to get around. I think a lot of the time people feel that they need to get this 4-year degree from really big university. Maybe if you're in California, like a UC system, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. You can go to a Cal State, you can go to a cheaper school, you can go to a state university. It's not bad. half the time
Mhm.
it's the same professors. Half the time it's the same professors. I've had professors at UCLA teaching me at Santa Monica College, which is a 2-year school.
Yep.
So you're getting the same education, the same curriculum for a fraction of the price.
Also, workplaces don't care where you graduate from. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Yes,
unless you're
absolutely.
coming out of Harvard, it's not.
Yeah,
it's not
unless you're
important.
going to an Ivy League, then sure, you're going to an Ivy League. You're going there to make connections. But if
Yeah.
you're just going to, like, if you want to go to, like, USC, you don't need to. You really don't
Yeah.
need to.
Yeah,
Like, if you
really
have the
don't need to.
money for it, then sure. I'll be my guest. But you don't need to take out student debt to attain a 4-year degree.
According to the statistics, we do not have the money, so please don't.
Please
Please don't. I know you
Like-
don't have it. Just
like,
don't do it.
As a prominent job hopper, like, I can tell you right now, as long as you can do what they want you to do, they don't care where you learn it from. They do not care.
Yeah.
Big agree.
So, my hot take is going back to the housing crisis. All home prices are a scam. Yeah, if you
You
can,
don't say.
defy your HOA, because HOAs are a scam too. I'm gonna get on my little soapbox here. I'm gonna tell people, if you view your house as a form of an investment, then you're part of the problem. You are part of the problem, right? Housing should not be a type of retirement vehicle for you. That's what the
Yeah.
401k is for. That's what your savings is for. It should not be for housing, because if you do it for housing, you're just inflating housing prices a lot more. Because the housing market is literally like, oh, this house went up a little bit. That means my house should go up a little bit. And then that house, in response, will go up a little bit too. It's just a cascading effect of it's just going to keep going up no matter what. Right? Which I
Yeah.
don't understand, because the house is getting older and it's getting more expensive, whereas with cars is the opposite shit.
Mhm.
The cars get older, it gets cheaper, hopefully. So I mean, you know, it's the same scenario. It's the double standards, really. And obviously, home prices are a scam. Do whatever you can to lower them. I know this is more of a systematic thing. It's not something that you or I can possibly fix in our lifetimes. But that's my opinion. This is all a result of capitalism, honestly. If there's a way we could, like, somehow incorporate guaranteed housing for everybody with our taxes, that'd be fantastic, right? I think we can all agree we don't want homeless people, right? We want housing for everybody. And I do think that this is a better way to handle that type of situation. Because with our tax money, I do feel like it's just kind of an easy fix. But people don't want to do that. Because BlackRock wants to jack up the home prices and charge us rent up the wazoo. And basically make us, hey, guess what? Current day slaves. So...
Yep. Less houses available to even buy, all rentals now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, that's
But we
that's my
can't
hot
always be negative.
take. Exactly. Here's our mandatory positive section of the episode, ladies. What do we got to say about this topic?
Well, I'm going to be negative.
Okay, awesome. Fantastic start.
Going into the, more detailed rabbit hole of looking at student debt and the current housing crisis and all that, I couldn't really find like a real positive spin on this. I mean, of course, us as a society at any point in time can decide to like change course, but there is no viable legislation being passed to like support this movement forward. There's nothing currently as of right now. There's a couple states that are talking about maybe trying to pass some bills. California is one that I think they're trying to pass one for more affordable housing, like in the Bay Area, like the San Francisco part. They need to like come up with 2,000 affordable units within the actual zip codes of San Francisco by the year 2030. But again, that's just in talks. It's not even being passed. I don't know what's even going on in other states. I'm sorry, I don't have the positive corner, and I'm going to make a new rule now that at least you're allowed to be not positive one time of the month for
Okay.
this topic. This is my one. This is
All
my
right.
one. I'll have a positive spin on the next one.
It's okay.
All right.
Well, I didn't really have anything positive to say about student loans, or the housing crisis, but I do have some advice for people that want to go to school. If you are a student with a learning disability, such as ADHD or autism, there's obviously more, but you can always look into what that list might look like. The Department of Rehabilitation can help, and most states have it. I know for California, it was super helpful for me. They paid for my university tuition, and certain ones will even like buy you a computer, pay for your school parking, help buy all your
Oh, that's
books.
nice.
And then once you're done, they also have career programs that can help you practice on your resume and interview prep and even buy what do you call it, like business clothes?
Oh,
Business
suits?
clothes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Suits?
just so you, not suits, but
Professional attire.
yes,
There you
yes, they give you a stipend to purchase professional attire. There.
Mm-hmm.
So
I will say, please take those resume and interview classes. A lot of y'all really need it.
Oh,
I'm
Damn!
sorry, but
Have you been
Look.
looking at some resumes? No,
I've been looking-
Nowadays, they just put it in ChatGPT.
oh my god,
Yeah, they
bro.
do.
Here's my
I forgot
resume.
about
Make
that.
it better.
Make it better. Crazy. Skill issue. Anyway,
My other piece of advice is that scholarship options are always available, and I recommend going for smaller scholarship options just because they're a little less competitive. If you have any local to your school or to your city, maybe even your parents' work, like those are always going to be really close options. On top of that, if you borrowed with Mohila, they're going through a lawsuit. So definitely check if your loans might be with a company that's currently going through a suit, and you might be able to get student loan forgiveness.
Mm.
yeah, get fucked, Bohila. Okay. My hot take is actually looking into bankruptcy. All right, now I need y'all to hear me out when I say this, okay? Who are the people that are most likely to file for bankruptcy? Rich people. Rich people go through bankruptcy all the time. Trump went through bankruptcy, what, 7 different times?
Yeah,
And
you're,
look at
you're saying
him.
like they utilize it.
Yeah, they utilize bankruptcy. It's part of the system and they game it, right? And by doing so, they really do come out on top. They really do put it to their advantage. And I think we should do the same. One thing I will advise is go through bankruptcy classes to look at your option, right? They'll get you more informed. I want to get rid of the stigma of bankruptcy being a bad thing because it's a type of assistance that people, the common man, can use. I really do think that a lot of people, if you're drowning in debt, definitely look into it. It'll fuck up your credit for what, 7 years? But after that, like if you're gonna go 7 years in debt with bad credit anyway, or you're gonna go 7 years without debt, but you can build your credit back up after that. So
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if your student loans, kind of like that woman where Diamond was talking about, like over $3,000 a month just for a student loan, if that goes over time, you could easily. There's people filing bankruptcy for like $100,000 to $200,000, and that may not
Yeah.
be something you can catch up to in 7 years' time. You may not.
I will say though, it does cost money to go through this process as well. So that's why I say go through a class, get yourself educated, go through every avenue, even the ones that sound like it's bad. All right, it's gonna hurt you a little bit, but in the long run, it might end up being a benefit. Go where the rich people go. That's my type of advice.
Yeah.
But what can we say? That's our opinion. That's what we got to say for tonight. Ladies, got any words of encouragement for everybody else listening in?
Go to school.
Go to school.
Go to school. Stay
Get an
in
education.
school.
Stay in
Please.
school. Get an education. We are having an education crisis in this country.
Please.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Literacy
Please
crisis.
get educated. Please read books. Don't be Dragon Ball fans.
And when
we
people
gotta be
say
better.
literary crisis, it's not you can't read. It's you don't understand what you're reading.
You gotta be able to read the context. You gotta read between the lines. That's very important.
Why are the
So-
curtains blue?
Exactly. But I guess that's it for today. And that's our opinion for this matter. But don't forget, we are unqualified.